Ladies, today we're diving deep into a powerful shift of transformation that moves us from being nice to being true to ourselves. Let's break down how this change will not only enhance your life, but also set the tone for relationships based on respect, authenticity, and balance. Niceness and kindness are often used interchangeably, but they are profoundly different in their origins and outcomes. Understanding this distinction is crucial, especially when it comes to relationships and self-respect. Being nice often stems from a desire to avoid conflict, gain approval, or conform to societal expectations. It's about making others feel comfortable even at the expense of your own needs or values. While it may seem harmless or even admirable, niceness can become a mask that hides your authentic self, leaving you feeling depleted, overlooked, or misunderstood. Kindness, on the other hand, is rooted in strength and authenticity. It arises from a place of self-awareness and self-respect, allowing you to act with compassion while staying true to your values and boundaries. Kindness doesn't require you to diminish yourself to accommodate others. Instead, it invites you to approach situations with honesty, empathy, and courage. When you are kind, you honor both your needs and the needs of others, creating a foundation for relationships that are genuine and balanced. The problem with being overly nice is that it can create a pattern of people-pleasing. You might say yes to things you don't want to do, avoid expressing your true feelings, or tolerate behavior that makes you uncomfortable, all in an effort to keep the peace or be liked. Over time, this can lead to resentment, burnout, and a sense of disconnection from your own identity. The irony is that while niceness is often intended to foster harmony, it can ultimately undermine it. People may take advantage of your willingness to accommodate, or they may struggle to connect with the real you because you're hiding behind a facade of agreeableness. Kindness, in contrast, is about showing up as your whole self. It's not about avoiding conflict, but addressing it thoughtfully and respectfully. For example, kindness might mean saying no to a request when it conflicts with your priorities, or speaking up when someone crosses a boundary. While these actions might cause temporary discomfort, they pave the way for deeper understanding and mutual respect. Kindness is about choosing integrity over ease, even when it's difficult. One of the most significant differences between niceness and kindness is their emotional impact. Niceness often leaves you feeling drained because it requires constant effort to maintain the approval of others. It's a performance, and performances are exhausting. Kindness, however, is liberating. When you act from a place of authenticity, you don't have to second guess your choices or worry about what others think. You can rest in the knowledge that you've acted with integrity, even if not everyone agrees with or likes your decisions. Shifting from niceness to kindness is about reclaiming your power and prioritizing your truth. It's about recognizing that your worth isn't determined by how well you meet others' expectations, but by how fully you live in alignment with your values. Kindness allows you to connect deeply with others without losing yourself, creating relationships that are both respectful and meaningful. It's not always easy, but it's always worth it. The cost of niceness is often hidden, but it runs deep, impacting your emotional health, relationships, and sense of self. At first glance, being nice seems like a harmless, even admirable quality. You keep the peace, avoid conflict, and maintain a pleasant demeanor. But beneath the surface, the habit of prioritizing others' needs and comfort over your own comes with a hefty price tag. Every time you silence your opinions, suppress your needs, or say yes when you mean no, you chip away at your authenticity and your ability to live a life that feels true to you. One of the most significant costs of niceness is the erosion of your boundaries. When you consistently prioritize being agreeable, you send a message to others, whether intentional or not, that your needs are secondary. Over time, this can lead to others taking advantage of your willingness to accommodate. People may come to expect your compliance, and you might find yourself overcommitted, overworked, or taken for granted. While you may initially tell yourself that being nice is the right thing to do, the lack of boundaries can leave you feeling resentful and drained. Niceness also comes at the expense of your emotional authenticity. When you're focused on being nice, you might suppress feelings of frustration, disappointment, or anger to maintain harmony. However, unexpressed emotions don't disappear, they accumulate. Suppressing your feelings can lead to passive-aggressive behavior, internalized stress, or even physical health issues like anxiety and tension. By avoiding short-term discomfort, you invite long-term emotional pain, often without realizing it. Another cost of niceness is the toll it takes on your self-esteem. When you habitually put others' needs ahead of your own, you send yourself the subtle but damaging message that your feelings and desires are less important. Over time, this can erode your sense of self-worth. You might find yourself questioning your decisions, doubting your abilities, or feeling as though you don't deserve to prioritize yourself. The irony is that the more you try to earn validation through niceness, the less validated you feel, because the validation you receive is based on a version of you that isn't fully real. The cost of niceness often manifests as a lack of depth or authenticity. If you're always agreeable, others might struggle to truly know you. Relationships thrive on mutual vulnerability and honesty, but niceness can act as a barrier to those qualities. When you prioritize being liked over being real, you rob both yourself and others of the chance to form genuine connections. Over time, this can lead to feelings of isolation, even in relationships that appear harmonious on the surface. Perhaps the most insidious cost of niceness is how it stifles your personal growth. Growth requires you to take risks, set boundaries, and step into discomfort. Niceness, by contrast, keeps you in a safe but stagnant space, avoiding conflict and hard truths. While this might feel easier in the moment, it limits your potential and prevents you from living fully. The cost of niceness is too high. It sacrifices your authenticity, your boundaries, and your well-being in exchange for superficial harmony. True peace, both internally and externally, comes not from niceness, but from living with integrity, courage, and self-respect. The word no is small, but it carries immense power. For many people, especially those conditioned to please others, saying no can feel uncomfortable, even selfish. Yet learning to say no is one of the most liberating and empowering skills you can develop. It's not just a refusal, it's a declaration of your priorities, a boundary that protects your time and energy, and a way to honor your own needs and values. Saying no allows you to take control of your life, ensuring that what you say yes to truly aligns with your goals and well-being. The difficulty with saying no often stems from fear of disappointing others, fear of rejection, or fear of conflict. We've been taught that saying yes is a sign of kindness and cooperation, while saying no might seem harsh or unkind. But the reality is that constantly saying yes when you want to say no isn't kindness, it's self-betrayal. Each time you agree to something that doesn't serve you, you sacrifice a piece of your autonomy and dilute your ability to invest in what truly matters. No is a tool for setting boundaries, and boundaries are essential for healthy relationships and personal fulfillment. When you say no, you're not just protecting your time, you're teaching others how to treat you. You're communicating your limits and showing that you value yourself enough to uphold them. While it might feel uncomfortable at first, saying no ultimately fosters respect. People who value and respect you will appreciate your honesty and the clarity of your boundaries. Those who don't, their reaction says more about them than about you. Saying no also creates space for meaningful yeses. Your time and energy are finite, and every yes you give to something that isn't a priority takes away from something that is. By saying no to distractions, obligations, and requests that don't align with your goals, you free yourself to focus on what truly matters: your career, your passions, your relationships, or your well-being. No is not about rejection. It's about redirection, guiding your energy toward what serves you best. One of the most empowering aspects of saying no is that it helps you build confidence and self-respect. Each time you assert yourself and honor your boundaries, you reinforce the belief that your needs are valid and important. Over time, this creates a positive feedback loop. The more you say no to things that don't serve you, the more aligned and fulfilling your life becomes, and the more confident you feel in continuing to advocate for yourself. It's important to remember that no doesn't have to be harsh or confrontational. It can be kind and firm, an expression of self-respect rather than rejection of the other person. A simple "I appreciate the offer, but I can't commit to that right now," or "thank you for thinking of me, but I'll have to pass," is enough. The power of no lies not in the word itself, but in the intention behind it, a commitment to living in alignment with your values and priorities. Saying no is an act of self-care and self-respect. It's a tool that allows you to live intentionally, prioritize what truly matters, and protect your energy. Far from being selfish, it's a gift to yourself and others, fostering relationships and commitments that are built on authenticity and mutual respect. Saying no is not a barrier, it's a doorway to a life that feels honest, fulfilling, and uniquely yours. The good girl narrative is a script many women are handed from a young age. It's the idea that being likable, agreeable, and accommodating is the highest form of femininity and the surest way to gain acceptance. This narrative teaches you to avoid conflict, suppress your desires, and prioritize others' needs over your own. While it might feel safe or even empowering in the short term to play by these rules, the truth is that the good girl narrative is a cage. It limits your growth, muffles your voice, and keeps you from living as your authentic self. Letting go of this narrative is not only liberating, it's essential for living a full, meaningful life. The good girl narrative often manifests in subtle ways. It might show up in the way you avoid speaking up for fear of being seen as too assertive. It might look like saying yes to tasks or commitments you don't have the time or energy for, simply because you don't want to let anyone down. It can even appear in the way you shrink yourself, downplaying your achievements or opinions so you don't seem intimidating or too much. These behaviors may seem harmless, but over time they erode your sense of self and leave you feeling exhausted, unfulfilled, and disconnected from your own desires. One of the biggest costs of adhering to the good girl narrative is the loss of your authentic voice. When you prioritize being agreeable over being honest, you rob yourself of the opportunity to express who you truly are. Your ideas, feelings, and boundaries matter, but the good girl script tells you to silence them in favor of keeping the peace or maintaining harmony. The result is a life that feels shallow and unsatisfying, built on a foundation of compliance rather than authenticity. Letting go of the good girl narrative requires unlearning deeply ingrained beliefs about what it means to be good. It starts with recognizing that your worth is not tied to how likable or accommodating you are. Your value as a person isn't dependent on how well you fit into someone else's expectations. True self-worth comes from living in alignment with your own values, desires, and truths, not from contorting yourself to meet the needs of others. This process of letting go also involves embracing discomfort. Saying no, setting boundaries, or asserting your needs might feel uncomfortable at first, especially if you've spent years prioritizing others' comfort over your own. But discomfort is a necessary part of growth. Each time you choose authenticity over appeasement, you strengthen your ability to stand in your truth, even when it feels challenging. The beauty of letting go of the good girl narrative is that it doesn't mean rejecting kindness, compassion, or connection. Instead, it means redefining those qualities in a way that includes yourself. It means recognizing that you can care for others while also caring for yourself, and that being kind doesn't require sacrificing your integrity or needs. When you release the good girl narrative, you give yourself permission to live fully. You step into your power, own your voice, and create space for relationships and opportunities that honor the real you. It's not about being perfect or fearless. It's about being brave enough to choose authenticity over approval. In doing so, you not only free yourself, but you also pave the way for others to do the same. Letting go of the good girl narrative isn't just a personal act, it's a revolutionary one. From the moment we are born, we are conditioned to seek validation from others. As children, we crave our parents' approval, praise, and affection. As we grow older, this need for external validation only intensifies, whether it's from teachers, friends, or romantic partners. In a world that often tells us our worth is tied to how others perceive us, it's easy to fall into the trap of seeking constant validation. We measure our success by likes, compliments, or the opinions of others, and this can make us feel validated in the short term. But the truth is, external validation is fleeting, unreliable, and ultimately disempowering. It doesn't provide the solid foundation we need to thrive. The real power lies in self-validation, learning to affirm and value ourselves, independent of outside approval. Self-validation is the process of acknowledging your worth, your emotions, and your choices without relying on the approval of others. It's about recognizing that you are enough as you are, regardless of what anyone else thinks or says. In a world that often pushes us to conform or measure up to external standards, self-validation is an act of self-respect and self-love. It's a declaration that you are worthy because of who you are, not because of your achievements or how others perceive you. The journey from seeking validation to practicing self-validation begins with recognizing the difference between the two. Seeking validation involves looking outside of yourself for reassurance, whether it's through compliments, recognition, or acceptance. It's a reliance on external factors to dictate how you feel about yourself. On the other hand, self-validation is an internal process. It's about looking inward to acknowledge your feelings, your achievements, and your worth. It means affirming your own strengths and qualities, even when no one else does. One of the biggest challenges in moving towards self-validation is letting go of the fear of rejection or judgment. We often seek external validation because we fear that if we don't get approval from others, we won't be loved or accepted. But the reality is that the more you rely on others for validation, the less control you have over your own sense of self-worth. When you base your value on the opinions of others, you are constantly at the mercy of their judgments, which can change at any given moment. Learning to self-validate means learning to stand firm in your worth, regardless of what anyone else thinks. Self-validation also involves recognizing and honoring your emotions without judgment. For many, there's a tendency to invalidate one's own feelings, especially when those feelings seem uncomfortable or inconvenient. But emotional self-validation means allowing yourself to feel without shame, guilt, or the need to explain yourself. When you validate your emotions, you acknowledge that they are valid, that they are a part of your experience, and that they are worth paying attention to. This practice fosters emotional resilience, allowing you to respond to challenges with self-compassion rather than self-criticism. Another key aspect of self-validation is embracing your accomplishments and progress, no matter how small. Often we downplay our achievements, waiting for others to acknowledge them before we allow ourselves to feel proud. But self-validation means celebrating your wins, big or small, without needing anyone else to validate them first. It's about recognizing that your journey and your growth are meaningful, even if no one else notices. This practice builds confidence and self-esteem, helping you to stay grounded in your own abilities and progress. Self-validation is about reclaiming your power. It's about giving yourself permission to be who you are, to feel what you feel, and to celebrate your achievements without needing anyone else's approval. When you make the shift from seeking external validation to practicing self-validation, you stop living in reaction to others and start living in alignment with your true self. You become your own source of affirmation, and this creates a deep sense of inner peace and strength. No longer dependent on others' opinions, you can fully embrace your own worth and live your life authentically, confidently, and unapologetically. Courageous conversations are the foundation of authentic relationships and a fulfilling life. They are the moments when you step out of your comfort zone to express your truth, set a boundary, or address an issue that feels too important to ignore. These conversations require vulnerability, honesty, and a willingness to face potential discomfort, both for yourself and the person you're speaking with. While they may feel daunting, courageous conversations are necessary for building connections based on respect and understanding, and for living a life aligned with your values. The fear of conflict often holds people back from engaging in these dialogues. It's tempting to avoid difficult conversations in the hope that the problem will resolve itself, or that avoiding it will preserve harmony. However, avoidance only delays the inevitable. Suppressed feelings and unresolved issues have a way of surfacing, often in ways that are more destructive than the initial conversation would have been. Whether it's through resentment, passive aggression, or emotional withdrawal, the cost of not having these conversations is high. Courageous conversations are not about confrontation or winning an argument. They are about clarity and connection. They create an opportunity to address misunderstandings, repair relationships, or advocate for your needs. These conversations are not just about expressing your perspective, but also about creating space for the other person to share theirs. When approached with empathy and a willingness to listen, they can lead to deeper mutual understanding and respect. Preparation is key to having a courageous conversation. Before you begin, take time to clarify your thoughts and feelings. What do you want to communicate? What outcome are you hoping for? Center yourself in your values and intentions so that you approach the conversation from a place of honesty rather than reactivity. This preparation helps you stay grounded and focused, even if the discussion becomes emotional or challenging. One of the most critical components of a courageous conversation is vulnerability. Being open about your feelings, fears, or needs requires courage, but it also invites us authenticity. When you share from a place of honesty, you create an environment where the other person feels safe to do the same. Vulnerability can be disarming, breaking down walls of defensiveness and opening the door to real connection. It's also essential to approach these conversations with empathy. Remember that the other person has their own perspective, experiences, and emotions. Seek to understand their point of view, even if you don't agree with it. Empathy doesn't mean compromising your boundaries or values, but it does mean engaging with respect and compassion. Courageous conversations may not always go as planned, and not every outcome will be ideal. Some people may not respond with the understanding or openness you hope for, and that's okay. The success of a courageous conversation isn't measured solely by the other person's reaction, but by your willingness to stand in your truth. Each time you have one, you strengthen your ability to advocate for yourself and build relationships based on authenticity. Courageous conversations are an act of self-respect and respect for others. They are how you honor your voice, clarify your boundaries, and navigate the complexities of relationships with integrity. While they may require bravery, their rewards a life of alignment, understanding, and deeper connections are well worth the effort. Authenticity is more than just a buzzword. It is a superpower that holds the potential to transform every aspect of your life. In a world that often rewards conformity and the ability to fit into predefined molds, living authentically can feel like an act of rebellion. Yet embracing your true self and showing up as who you really are without pretense, without masks, without apology is one of the most powerful and liberating choices you can make. When you tap into authenticity, you stop living for others and start living for your own, grounding your actions and decisions in who you truly are, not in who you think you should be. Living authentically allows you to fully engage with life. It frees you from the exhausting cycle of people-pleasing, where every decision is weighed by the fear of judgment or rejection. Instead, when you are authentic, you make decisions based on your values, desires, and needs. You no longer feel the pressure to shrink or change yourself to fit the expectations of others. Instead, you recognize that your unique perspective, your quirks, and your true nature are worth embracing. When you live in this way, every aspect of your life becomes more aligned and fulfilling. Your choices are clear, your relationships become more meaningful, and you feel a deep sense of inner peace because you are no longer living in conflict with yourself. One of the greatest gifts authenticity offers is the ability to connect deeply with others. When you show up as your true self, you give others the permission to do the same. Authenticity creates an atmosphere of trust and openness where people can be real without fear of judgment or rejection. This vulnerability creates stronger, more genuine bonds, whether in friendships, family relationships, or romantic partnerships. Authenticity fosters connection. People are drawn to those who are comfortable in their own skin because authenticity is magnetic. It invites others to let down their guard and be real too. Embracing authenticity also requires vulnerability. It's not always easy to show the world who you truly are, especially if you've spent years building walls or conforming to what others expect of you. But vulnerability is not weakness. It is a source of strength. When you open yourself up to being fully seen, you release the need for external validation. You stop waiting for someone else to tell you that you are enough because you already know that you are. In fact, when you allow yourself to be authentic, you gain a deeper understanding of who you are and what you truly want, unfiltered by the opinions of others. Being authentic also means setting boundaries. When you know your true self, it becomes easier to say no to things that don't align with your values and yes to things that nourish you. These boundaries are an expression of self-respect and self-love. They protect your energy and well-being, allowing you to thrive. When you live authentically, you become more attuned to your needs and desires. And this heightened awareness helps you navigate the world in a way that honors your personal truth. There will always be challenges to authenticity. People may judge you, misunderstand you, or resist your changes, but the power of living true to yourself far outweighs these external pressures. Authenticity is not about perfection. It's about honesty and integrity. It's about embracing your imperfections and understanding that they are part of what makes you unique. When you live authentically, you are giving the world the gift of you raw, real, and unapologetic. And that is a power no one can take away from you.